Welcome to A Second Helping with Allison Bartow, a wedding photography podcast with a focus on second shooting. Today's guest is Kayleen Nyshell, and she is with Kayleen Nyshell Photography. And I found her amazing work on Instagram, and we connected recently. And so thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to jump in because I love your story about how you got started. Everyone has, a different journey. So when did you first get your camera?
So my husband bought me my first ever camera. It was a Canon Rebel T7 for my birthday in March of 2021.
From what I remember, it was for you to take nice pictures on your honeymoon in Japan, and that went a little differently. You didn't get to take your honeymoon in Japan?
So we didn't at the time. We actually got to go this year in March, and it was amazing and a little embarrassing, but I did not bring my camera because I was scared to travel with it. But I did end up bringing like a little point and shoot. So it ended up working out. We took amazing pictures anyways.
And you probably were able to capture better point and shoot pictures after having all this photography experience of the previous year under your belt.
Oh, yes, absolutely. If I got that camera before I even touched another one, I feel like I would have been totally clueless.
Yeah, it's a lot to learn. So when you first got your real camera, I remember you saying you looked at the back and all of the buttons and you were overwhelmed.
Yes, I looked at it and I was like, what? Oh no, my husband just dropped $500 for what? I was so confused. But then I ended up, researching a ton on my camera and just going on YouTube and watching a bunch of videos just to learn. I think I did that for about 3 months before I even got somebody in front of my camera because I wanted to at least pretend like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. And I think when you start learning, you start figuring out how much you don't know. So yes. When you got onto YouTube, who were some of the photographers that you resonated with or felt were really great for you to learn from?
Yeah, so I really gravitated towards Cassidy Lynn and Caitlin James. Those were the videos that I just watched endlessly for hours because they had a lot of videos on there, but they were also very, very educating as far as all of the different buttons that you could, all the settings that you have for and all different types of scenarios when you're outside, inside. So it was very educational, especially with just starting out.
That's great. I feel like also when you're starting out, if you start following someone who's a little bit more technically advanced than you are, it's just overwhelming. So it's nice when you find someone that is right where you are and speaking your language as you get started, and then things start to click. So 3 months is a long time to, really dig in and learn. I think that's great. And then who were the first people you started photographing?
Yeah, so I pretty much just reached out on my personal Instagram. I was like, hey, does anyone want to model for me? I'm just starting out. And I had a couple of friends from high school reach out, and it was a lot of solo sessions at first. And then I started asking my parents, hey, did you want to model for me? And my brother and his girlfriend. I had a couple of friends and their fiancés or boyfriends at the time. They modeled for me as well. So it was awesome to have that support right in the beginning.
When you started, what did you find was harder than you expected doing portraits?
Oh gosh. I feel like I really struggled with posing a lot. I felt like I did a lot of the same type of poses and I wanted to branch out and do something different. So I would go out on Pinterest and just look at a bunch of different inspiration pictures. And that helped me a ton because I was horrible at posing at the time.
I think that's everybody. I don't know of anyone that's ever said you know what, as soon as I picked up the camera, the posing was the easy part. And was there anything that you found when you started taking pictures and making these portraits that was easier than you expected?
I think it was easy for me to just talk with everybody because in the beginning I did, reach out to my friends and family, but then I also had strangers wanting to model for me. So it was actually really easy for me to like pick up a conversation with them, and it made things a lot more comfortable for the both of us because, you know, when you are, I also didn't realize this, like, I mean, of course, you're going to be meeting strangers in like a field, you know, so
Hmm.
it's like you don't know, like, what do you talk about? But it was so easy to just kind of like pick up a conversation with everybody. And I guess I'm lucky in this aspect, but I never had like an awkward session to where I was like, okay, I guess I can't really talk to these people.
That's impressive. Yeah, because they're also nervous showing up too. So,
Right.
you both can be a little bit nervous. So, well, that's good to hear. So, you're taking portraits, you're getting more and more comfortable with your camera. How did you end up booking your first second shooting assignment?
So at the time, I was still on all these Facebook groups where like it was like wedding, you know, like buy, sell, trade, you know, advice, all that stuff. And it was all like Chicago based. So like Northern Illinois, Chicago. There's some specifically in the counties that I'm in. So it really helped that I was still in there, in those groups. So I just kind of posted and was like, hey, I'm beginning to start like my photography journey. I would love to get my foot in the door with weddings. If anybody needs a second shooter assistant, um, please let me know. And I would love to join you at your weddings. And this one photographer, her name is Kaylee Ray. She reached out to me and was like, hey, I need a second shooter for my weddings in 2023. Would you be interested? I was like, heck yes. I just want to let you know though, I've never done this before ever. So definitely going to need some guidance. You know, the only wedding that I recently went to was my own. So I definitely need some help in that aspect. And she was like, no problem. I got you. And it just kind of blossomed from there.
And you guys did like a photo swap, right? To get to meet each other
Yes, it
before your
was.
first wedding.
Yes, it was so nice to be able to meet her beforehand, just so we could like put a name to the face and not meet each other for the first time at the wedding. So it was awesome. Like her and her husband met me and my husband, and we just did like a quick photo swap. And it was really fun to get to meet them both.
I think that's nice too, because it is weird. In addition to meeting strangers in remote places, another aspect of this job that's weird is showing up to a wedding on the big day, having never met the
Hmm.
photographer before and working together. I
Right.
think that adds another challenge to the job. So it's great that you were able to meet her. And I think it also pays that you were honest with your experience thus
Hmm.
far. So she, knew where you were coming in with,
Exactly.
experience wise. So, what was your first wedding shooting with her like?
It was amazing. It was kind of local. Actually, my in-laws live in the area, so I was familiar with where the venue was. But we did end up riding together, which was awesome. And because we found out that we live only like 10 minutes apart from each other, which is crazy to me too.
Yeah.
But we ended up like riding together, and she was just amazing. Like she was an amazing support, and she just kind of like guided me through the day. She told me where to be, how to position myself, and just made me feel super comfortable.
Also, like riding together in the car ahead of time, she was able to really brief you, I would think, on like the couple and the day and,
Right.
expectations and all of that, which is nice. So instead of, just
Yeah.
showing up cold, that first wedding, was there anything that you were surprised to learn about, shooting weddings or second shooting?
Yeah, I was surprised about how long the day was. I mean, I knew that we were going to be there for, I think it was 6 or 7 hours, something like that. But I didn't realize how sore I would be the next day. I was like, I've been a server before, I've been a bartender, I've been on my feet, but I've never experienced a soreness like that. And I was a cheerleader. So I was just like, wow, I am so crazy tired and sore. I didn't realize how long this day would be.
It's true. Yeah. And that's a great physical background. So it is, you're just using different muscles. And I feel like a lot of the day, I don't want to say you're tense, but like you're on
Hmm.
alert the whole day so that you're not missing anything. So I think that's
Exactly.
adds to the exhaustion too.
Oh,
So
yes,
now,
for sure.
so now after that first day, did she give you feedback right away? Did she give you then feedback on the photos? What did that look like?
Yeah, so she did give me some feedback. It was pretty much basically on her preference because she shoots a little bit differently than I do. So it was like her explaining, this is what I like to shoot at this kind of angle. So if you could just work on that for next time. But other than that, you did great. I love the photos and I can't wait to send you the gallery.
Oh, that's awesome. Did she give you guidance like before the wedding or during the wedding, like just kind of how she wanted you to interact with a couple or, just the approach as far as like how involved she wanted you getting with them versus like, documenting everything or like being customer service oriented, like carrying the dress or anything like that?
Yes. So she did tell me, you can talk with them and everything. Like, obviously, don't be mute the whole day, but don't pose them or guide them or tell them what to do. That's my job as the lead, and I totally respected that. And she was like, if I need help with anything like carrying the bouquet or fluffing out her dress, feel free to go ahead and do that for me. But other than that, she was super chill for the whole entire wedding, which was awesome because I didn't want it to be like super tense and stressed, and I didn't want to like also step on her toes either. So it was really nice to for it to be just like a really chill day.
Sounds like she gave you enough direction and expectations so that you didn't have
Hmm.
that uncomfortable feeling of like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be interacting more or am I intruding too much? Because I know like it's someone's wedding day and they don't know you. They've never met you.
Right.
In most cases, you haven't been involved with the consults. So I never want to like you don't want to be telling stories or anything like that. So it's nice just to know
Right.
like how much they want you to interact. And then as far as like the dress and stuff like that, I think that's great. So
Exactly. Yeah.
she went on to book you for more second shooting weddings. So how many did you end up ballpark second shooting for her? And this was in 2022, correct?
Yes.
Or
2022. And I think I shot maybe around like close to 8 or 9 weddings with her. It
wow.
was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is because you never know if someone has already booked their second shooter. So that's great that she was able, to have those additional dates. Who else did you work with that year as far as like how many other photographers and how did they find
I
you?
Yeah, I worked with 2 other photographers that year. They found me on Instagram and just reached out through DMs and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a second shooter for this date. Are you available?" I said yes and jumped on the opportunity because I definitely wanted every bit of wedding experience that I could get.
My next question would be then for all of the other second shooters that are out there, how did they find you on Instagram? What were you able to share on Instagram that they reached out to you? So what work were you sharing?
So I was sharing a lot of my couples work and the second shooter work that I was, shooting at the weddings. Then I was also putting hashtags like Chicago photographer, Chicago wedding photographer, just a lot of like local hashtags so people could find me. And that's how they said that they could find me. So I thought that was really cool.
It was really kind of her to, be open to you sharing and, just being able to get your work out there so that people could see your portfolio. So when you
Hmm.
started working with these other photographers, what did you find? Were you surprised at all by their different styles, or did they have a similar style to what you had been used to working with?
So I felt like a lot of them, they did have similar styles to how they went out about the day. So it was kind of nice because I was used to it, but I was also kind of expecting something different as well, which it didn't disappoint me or anything like that, but I did want to get a lot of different experience to see how I would want to run my own weddings throughout the day, but I felt comfortable enough to where I was like, okay, this is how I would feel like I would run my day. So I was glad that they were all pretty similar in that aspect.
It was surprising to me having shot with the same person for a while then seeing how differently people can approach the day. Did you ever see
Mhm.
anything that you were like, you know what, that's not what I would want to do in my business. Like that's something I would want to avoid.
I don't think so. I felt like everybody was so professional, but also really laid back at the same time. In that aspect, it was really nice to see that we don't have to be super crazy, professional and stick to everything. We can have fun with it too.
Yeah, you don't want to be so stuffy. You need to kind of blend in.
Right.
And I know that Lanny and Erica Mann, in their teachings, they always say, by the time the wedding day rolls around, they want to be viewed as friends with cameras rather than like the hired professional photographers. So,
Yes.
that really makes a difference. Now, this is what's amazing to me. So you started second shooting in 2022. It is May of 2023. How many weddings of your own do you have booked for this year?
I have 15 weddings and 2 elopements.
That's amazing. It is just, those are great numbers for someone who just got started. So what would you say to the photographers listening? What do you attribute that success in booking to, in having people reach out to you? What has been like the way that you've marketed?
So I was crazy on Instagram. Any wedding photo that I could post, I posted it. And I was also really crazy on Facebook marketing. Like I paid for some ads, but I didn't feel like they really brought me anything. So I was just crazy with my own marketing and posting all over the Facebook group saying, hey, I'm Kayleen. I'm a Chicago wedding photographer. If you're looking for a photographer in 2023, please reach out through my website, check out my work. I was crazy about posting all over those Facebook groups. I think I would post maybe once a week in all like 30 Facebook groups that I'm in. Like I would just be so annoying about it. And I think it really helped me with my bookings.
That's huge because most photographers getting started just aren't doing that consistently. And I think, people are just maybe just posting on Instagram, but you were going out and trying to find the people, that would need your service. So something else that I'm super impressed with is your Instagram feed. I just think it is a portfolio of work that looks like a photographer who has been doing this for much, much longer than you actually have.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
It's true. When I looked at it, it's beautiful. It's very consistent and cohesive, and it's your voice and a beautiful style. One of the things that jumped out to me after I was looking at it was no one's really looking at the camera. None of your photos are camera aware, and they feel very intimate in a really nice way. So what would you attribute your ability to get people to feel so comfortable in front of the camera with?
I always come prepared with prompts and poses, but then I also really like to capture the candid in between moments. So there will be some prompts or poses where I'm like, just hold that and just talk to each other, have a conversation, pretend like I'm not here, and I'm just going to capture what I see. And sometimes it'll go on for 5 or so minutes, and I'm capturing like magic and gold because they're just doing their thing, they're living in the moment, and it just really helps with capturing just authentic, true memories there.
I think that's really good advice because speaking for myself, I get nervous posing sometimes and probably rush through it. And I think that's a key piece of advice, to just give people time to relax, and because they go into it and they're nervous. Most people aren't used to modeling, and brides and grooms on the wedding day, they say that too. They're not sure what to do. So I think that's really important. What are some of the prompts that you like to use?
Yeah, so I like to tell them to prom dance and just kind of like sway back and forth, get your hair flowing, talk about something that you did the other day, or whisper something funny into your partner's ear to make them laugh. And it brings out so many great pictures. I love capturing like those in between moments like that.
It really shows. You can just tell that they're relaxed and comfortable, and I'm sure that they love the photos that they get back. With your wedding packages, do you offer engagement sessions?
I do. I do offer engagement sessions with my wedding packages. I think it really helps with meeting your couple and then also them meeting you before the big day. Because, like you said, it's so much easier to meet somebody beforehand before just like meeting them for the first time on their wedding day, like the biggest day of their lives. So I think it gives the opportunity to make everybody comfortable beforehand.
Yeah, I just think that is a huge difference. Showing up and feeling they've already met you, they're familiar maybe with some of the prompts that you're going to give them, so it's not the first time. I know second shooting, I can see such a difference when someone has not done an engagement session. You know, they're getting the hang of the prompts or the posing guides from the photographer
Hmm.
versus when someone has already shot with that photographer, because they're giving them different prompts and telling them what to do with, you know, their hands or their legs, and you can just see that they've already done it, so they're really comfortable. They know exactly what they're being instructed to do. So I think that definitely helps with a comfort level on the wedding day. On a wedding day when you're second shooting, what kind of energy do you bring to the day? Like when you show up, are you super reserved? What would you say?
Yeah, so I always try to come as just a support for my lead. I know it's a big day for the couple, but it's also a big day for them. So I always like to bring snacks and some drinks and just be kind of like their support system throughout the day. I know that it is a long, long day, so I just want to be there for them in any aspect and just listen to them and what they need from me and just go about the day so we can knock it out.
I'm surprised when I hear stories where second photographers don't really understand their role and how to best serve the photographers. So it seems
Hmm.
like you totally get that. And I think it shows by how many repeat weddings you've worked with photographers. Is that something that just naturally came to you, or did you show up and then realize, like, oh, it would be helpful next time if I did X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, so there were some weddings where I unfortunately missed out on, like bride and groom portraits. And I was like, darn, like I really wish I was able to capture that for my portfolio. But then you look back and you realize that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here for me. I'm here for my lead. And I need to make sure that I'm supporting them in any way that I can. And I need to be where they tell me to be because at the end of the day, it's their wedding that they booked. And I'm there to assist them and help them make the day go by as smooth as possible.
I agree. I totally agree with you because, like you said, you know, they've done the marketing, they've done the
Hmm.
consults, they've booked the couple, you know, it's their business that's on the line. And the day of, you're a part of their business. And, you know, I say in our roles, we aren't set up to get the best primary shot. So if we're just shooting, you know, a few degrees off of what they're doing, it's not going to be beneficial to them at all. It's just more for them
Right.
to cull and most likely cull out. So I think getting the different angles and like the zoom, you know, like a closer shot of something where you're adding to that gallery is important. What would you say your strengths are? How do you make sure you're getting work that is going to be a real compliment to the gallery?
So I always make sure that I ask where they want me to be. So if they're getting one angle, I want to make sure that I'm obviously not getting the same angle. So I would go at a different way. And then most of the time, I also use a different lens so that they're once, like if they're using their 35, maybe I would put their 85 on just so they can have like that different, like depth perception of the day. And it's like totally a different perspective of it too.
I think that's smart. And then I'm assuming you're also looking to see like when they're shooting portrait and then you're capturing landscape, like during the ceremony,
Right.
things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a lot to be looking and checking, but you want to make sure you're getting something different. So, speaking of lenses, so it sounds like you shoot with some primes. Right now, what is your, I guess, what's your favorite lens to shoot when you're shooting your own weddings? Or what do you,
Yes.
enjoy shooting with portrait sessions,
Yeah.
engagements?
I recently got earlier this year the 24 to 70, and it has not left my camera body since I got it. It's amazing. It's versatile. I could use it in any situation. So I am sticking to that for as long as I can because I love it. And it's just so nice to be able to zoom in when I need to and zoom out when I need to. And it's just the perfect overall lens.
I'm hearing people raving about their 24 to 70s. So you're just another person who is a big fan. Are you shooting a lot indoors, outdoors, combinations? Because you're Northern Illinois, so it's not like you're, able to shoot outdoors all year.
Right. Yeah. Our
You don't
crazy
have a lot of
Chicago
outdoor
weather.
receptions in the winter.
Right. Yeah. I definitely feel like we're doing a great mixture of both. So it's awesome because then I get that experience with different lighting situations. So I know what to do when it comes to, okay, it's, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there's not a cloud in the sky, the sun is beaming, but then also you're inside with not the best lighting situation. So it's awesome to be able to get experience with all different kind of scenarios.
It makes you more well-rounded. And then
Hmm.
definitely when you're thrown into a scenario where it's not what you expected, you're able to make that adjustment, which is huge. So with that, talk about flash. So it's enough just trying to learn photography and a camera and all the settings and what to do at a wedding, because a wedding is like every type of photography rolled into one on the day of. And then you add in flash, which most of us, when we first got into flash, I would say were pretty scared or realized how hard it
Hmm.
was. What's your experience been?
Have the Godox V1 flash, and I love it. It's pretty easy to use. I feel like I'm still learning how to do it, but I love it. It is very intimidating at first, but once you start really getting to learn how to use it, I feel like it's pretty easy. When I first got it, I would literally just turn off all the lights in my house and just start like taking pictures of my dogs or like my husband or like just random things in my house just to like make sure that I'm getting the kind of picture that I want. And
Mm-hmm.
so that it'll be easy in, when I head to weddings and we're in like a dark reception room and there's not many lights or not the best lighting scenario to work with. So just so I know how to use it throughout the day.
I use that flash system as well, and I think it is reliable. They're affordable. And it's
Mm-hmm.
so important what you said to make sure you're practicing at home and getting an
Mm-hmm.
understanding of the flash and all the buttons versus trying to do it on a wedding day. So,
Right.
well, that's good. Yeah, flash is it's tough, but like you feel good once you're getting a good handle of it because, there are times where it's like a beautiful day and, you're thinking like, oh, outdoor ceremony and something happens and all of a sudden you're moved indoors and want to make sure you're able to handle it. So that's
Right.
really important. Now, being in the wedding photography business for not a super long time, I was really impressed with your editing style and your voice when I was going through your photos. What was that like? How did you come about finding the style and the editing look that you wanted for your work?
So I started out with kind of warmer tones, like very, very orangey photos. And I realized that when I was editing, although I loved how warm and, you know, comfortable that the photos felt, I just felt like it wasn't very true to the subjects that I was shooting. Like I would see the raw versus the edited warm photo and I'm like their shirts or their dresses or whatever they're wearing is just not what I'm photographing. So I started leaning more towards true to color photos and editing style. And then like I just kind of like throw in a little bit of boldness just to make everything pop a little bit more.
I think they're beautiful, and I'm on the
Oh, thank
team.
you.
I do. I think it's beautiful. Everyone needs to go in the show notes and check out Kayleen's website and her Instagram because they're really, in addition to the posing, the editing, it's really, really impressive. I think all of your hard work and efforts are, you can see them. But I agree with you too. Like, I like personally something a little bit more true because I feel like it's going to be more timeless and classic. And
Hmm.
years down the road when your couple's children are looking at the pictures, you don't want them to be like, why was everything so orange back then? Or, so
Right.
as much as we all like trends a little bit, I think it's important to not get too trendy, or
Hmm.
experiment. What trends in photography right now do you like? Even if you're not seeing them like a lot in your work, what are you liking out there?
I have been obsessed with motion blur photos, whether it's like with flash, like shutter drag, or just those blurry photos that sometimes you unintentionally get, but I've definitely been trying to intentionally get them. They're just so much fun, and it just adds that little bit more in your gallery.
I think it conveys the spirit too of like what was happening from a storytelling aspect. Because if it's like the
Yeah,
reception party dancing, it looks more like what it felt like. Because I like
right.
them too. I think it's just like the chaos and, if you're shooting super clean and just like freezing everything, they can be nice pictures, but I think the motion blur with the light and the shutter drag is a lot of fun because it just makes sense. I have a photographer that I'm friends with, Chuck Anarino, and he's been messing around with slow shutter speeds, and he's doing it at earlier times during the day, which I need to be more mindful of and intentional with, because he gets just really cool photos of like the bride's dress where it's like a little bit of blur and, like
Hmm.
whether it's getting into the car, or he doesn't overdo it, but I tend to forget in the moment. And I think second shooting, like I feel so much like this is my job today. I've got to turn out good work. I shouldn't be
Right.
experimenting, but I think we can experiment a little bit because it can add to the gallery. I think there's a right way to do it and
Yeah,
a not
exactly.
great way to do it. But yeah, I do love a little bit of the motion blur. Any trends that you're seeing that you're not a fan of?
Can we talk about AI for a second?
I was just, yes.
Because because it's been popping off lately, and I don't know why, but it's making me so sad
Hmm.
that, this is like a trend. And it's not because that I'm worried about AI replacing us or anything like that. I just feel like it's so, I don't know. I don't want to say fake, but it
It
is.
is, yeah.
And I just don't like it.
I never thought I would say I wish I would hear people talking about cryptocurrency more. Like, let's go back to those days where people are just talking about that. There were comments the other day that I totally agreed with that were like, there's a time and a place for AI, and it doesn't need to be with photography. Like, why can't we get
Hmm.
them out there getting the plastic out of the oceans? Yeah, I
Right.
just think, especially with the weddings, like you can't be going and changing everything about the day. So it is
Right.
scary, and I get it. And there was recently, I don't know if you saw, there was a photography competition and someone won, and then they like rescinded or whatever it's called when you decline the award because they'd actually created the photograph in using AI. And so they
No
were like, I don't
way.
know if they may have been trying to prove a point, but it was scary though that someone could win a competition, and it's just wild. So, yeah.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, I
Hmm.
I mean, I'm glad that they came forward, but it's true. Like you could take a picture in a field and then you could Photoshop in some mountains, and it's like people will ask you, "Oh my God, where did you take that?" And it's like, "Well, I took this here, but the mountains aren't real." And it's like, "Oh."
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's just like that's I feel like that's really crazy that it's this has just been like popping off lately. I
Yeah.
mean,
They're
some of
like,
the photos are really cool, but
hmm,
all of like it's you just know that it's not real.
it just feels like it needs to have like its own category or be very clear
Hmm.
that it is, a different type of art,
Hmm.
so it's, yeah, because it's not photography. It's something different. So, yeah.
Right.
And I think what probably scares us, and I haven't even thought about it too much, is when things trend and then brides start asking for things. So that would be a nightmare for me if they started asking for like all sorts of AI interpreted things for their wedding day.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like I need to put that in the contract or something that this is not going to happen.
We will not be photoshopping in using AI, mountain ranges, dinosaurs,
Right.
meteors, all of that. Um,
Right.
so now when it comes to the day and your approach, let me talk about details and flat lays. Where are you with that?
Oh my gosh, I love detail photos and flat lays. I think they're so fun. I just recently built my own flat lay kit so I can bring to all my weddings. And it has a bunch of fun things that I can't wait to use. I used it once at my wedding earlier this year. I actually have a wedding tomorrow and I'm going to be bringing it as well. So I'm super excited.
Oh, cool. Is it your own wedding or is it a second shooting wedding?
It is my own wedding.
Ooh. Oh, cool. Well, I can't wait to see the photos. When you're second shooting, how do you deal with like the groom's details?
I do feel like it's a little bit of a struggle just because there's not as much stuff that you have like you do with your bride. Because like the brides, you have their earrings, their bracelets, necklace, shoes, dress. You could also throw in like a bridesmaid's dress in there. They just have so much more stuff than the groom do because they just have like their suit, tie, shoes, maybe cufflinks, maybe like their cologne bottle or something. But it's a little bit more of a struggle, but it's also nice because then you get to practice with not as many objects and it just looks really simple and to the point, and I love it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And men's shoes just aren't as sexy as, bride shoes. I feel the same way. I definitely don't spend as much time with the groom. And you've got like a boutonniere maybe, whereas, the bride, you
Right.
have a big bouquet and it's a little bit more fun to work with. What are some of the pros for you? Like if comparing that to shooting your own weddings, what are some things that a second shooter, that you enjoy about that role versus being the lead?
Yeah, I feel like you don't have to do as much work as the lead. You show up and you can go home and you don't have to worry about editing any photos right away. You don't have to worry about culling through the gallery. You don't have to worry about really anything. And it's really nice to just be able to go to a wedding, come home and just kind of like relax and not have to worry about it afterwards.
Yeah, you show up the day of, there's not too much prep work, getting ready for it, and you're able to enjoy the day. Yeah, I love it as a job. I think it's something really fun to do. And I like both roles, but it is interesting, like just showing up the day of and meeting everybody for the first time and just kind of giving it your all and then leaving and being like, wow, I'm exhausted. I'm going to be sore tomorrow. That was fun. Yeah. We did great work. It's like kind of like a hit and run. And then, the lead photographer, they're most likely getting a sneak peek ready and all of that. Have you shot any of your own primary weddings yet? I know you have one tomorrow, but have you had any of your own weddings yet?
Yes, I had one earlier this year in March.
What surprises were there as the lead? What were some things maybe you didn't think about, or just the day of, you're like, oh, this is different?
I knew what I was obviously going into just because like we had like the timeline and everything, but I guess I didn't realize that, gosh, how unpredictable Chicago weather is because it was towards the end of March and usually we could have some sort, it's always cold, it's still our winter months, but sometimes we'll have snow. So I didn't know if we were going to have snow then. But it was raining and it was very, very random. It wasn't that crazy of a rain, but inside the venue, it was all open windows. And so it was nice because you can get that natural light coming in, but then it was also dark and rainy. So I was like, oh geez, I don't know how I'm going to like play out this situation. So I just kind of went with the flow. We were ready to go. And then I saw that they kind of dimmed the lights and I was like, oh gosh. And I didn't want to use my flash throughout the whole ceremony because I knew that there was going to be videographers there. And I didn't want like flash going off like throughout their whole videos. And I felt like the light was just enough to where I can bump up my ISO to a comfortable number and it would be fine. And it all ended up working out. So, but it was something that I wasn't prepared for.
Well, I'm happy to hear it all worked out because it is a lot of pressure, and with expectations, I always used to like think ahead and I like to plan everything ahead of time. But when you show up, wedding days, things happen that nobody's ready for, and you have to be able to adjust, and you have to be able to adjust quickly because you've got that timeline everyone's trying to stick to. And lighting, to your point, like you can size up a room and be like, okay, all right, we can work with this. And then all of a sudden the planner comes in or, the venue coordinator and like dims the lights and you're like, oh, okay, this is different. So this
Right.
job, you definitely get, curveballs thrown all the time. So, well, I'm glad that worked out.
Right.
And you know what? It is more pressure as the lead because as a second, you just defer, like you can offer an opinion if the primary wants it, but if
Hmm.
you're just deferring to what they want to go with. But yeah, it's all on you as the lead. So it's definitely a different type of pressure and just more stress. So
Yeah.
now for your wedding tomorrow, what's the situation? Or is it an outdoor ceremony, indoors? What's it looking like?
It's in downtown Chicago. We're going to be doing some getting ready photos and some bridal portraits at their house, and everybody's, getting ready together. And then we're gonna go down to the Logan Square Monument. I've never been there before, but I hear that it's beautiful. It's not the Logan Square Monument. It's Logan Square Theater.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what it is. I saw pictures online and it's beautiful. And then we're going to head over to the venue. It's a brewery. So I'm super
Ooh.
excited about that because I love beer. So I think it's going to be fun. I've never been to that particular brewery before, but I'm excited.
That sounds like a fun day. Now, role reversal, will you have a second shooter tomorrow?
No, I'm by myself tomorrow.
All right. I've done that a couple times, so you'll be fine. Look at it this way. You don't have to spend time bossing anyone around. It's just you.
That's true. That's true.
Do you know how many guests are going to be there?
I think it's a smaller, intimate wedding. I think there's going to be around 60 to 75.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah, it'll be really, really intimate, and I love small, intimate weddings like that.
I agree. I feel it's a different vibe for sure. Do they have a bridal party?
They have people designated as their maid of honor and best man, but they're not going to be like standing up there with them.
Now, for your other weddings this year, maybe some of the larger weddings, you do have second shooters scheduled for at least some of them, right?
Yes, actually, all of them. Just
Oh,
because
okay.
I know that they're going to be larger weddings, I felt comfortable with having a second shooter. And I always ask my couples, do you want a second shooter? Do you feel as if it would be necessary for your day? And if they ask me, I don't know, what do you think? And I say, I always recommend having one. There are some weddings where, they may be smaller and intimate where you might not feel like you need one, but I always recommend it.
Now, how did you find your second shooter for these weddings?
Yes, so she was actually one of my very first models when I started out. Her and her daughter modeled for me, and we went to the same high school together as well. So we kind of knew each other. And she started photography a little bit after me, and her business has just been booming. And I'm so proud of her. And we just work so well together. And I'm just super excited to have her with me. And I'm with her too. I'm going to be second shooting with her a lot, for her a lot this year as well. So I'm super excited.
I think that's great. And I think it makes such a difference when you're working with the same photographer. Like each time it just feels easier when you show up as far as like knowing what they need and what to expect.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Because then you also just know how each other works. So you don't really, I mean, you could tell them where to be and what to do, but you also feel like you don't have to because they kind of already know.
it's funny on a wedding day, like you want to, as the second, be able to like ask questions and make sure you're doing the right thing. But there isn't a ton of time and the lead is under pressure to do things. So they can't have a second who's constantly asking, you know, where do you want me? How do you want me shooting this? Which lens do you want me using? So I definitely think the more you shoot with someone, the more you just know what they like and what they want and what they're going to use. And it's also fun. I think one of the things I need to work on too is getting a little bit more behind the scenes, like shots of the main photographer working. A lot of the photographers don't ask for that, but I think they appreciate it. So that's something I know I want to work on. So I think that'll be nice that you two can probably do that for each other if you're interested in that.
Oh, yes. I love behind the scenes because I love making reels and just like posting throughout the day about the day. And it's also fun to send those videos to your couples too, because they'll definitely appreciate the extra coverage during their wedding day.
And have you heard another trend? People are offering up the service of being like a content creator for the day of the wedding. So it's like someone who their only role is just creating content. What are your thoughts on that?
That is something that I actually got a little nervous for because I saw it came up on, I think it was like my Instagram Reels, and I saw this wedding creator, and her videos are and pictures are beautiful, but and I saw that she was taking them on an iPhone, and I was like, oh my gosh, like the way that she was just like capturing the day, and you can even really tell that it's on an iPhone. I was like, it, are we gonna get replaced by wedding creators? Like I was genuinely a little bit nervous about it, but I just think it's so cool, and I think it's just another added on vendor that you can bring to your day, just so you can have all the coverage and all the photos and all the videos throughout your wedding day, so you can just remember it in every single minute of the day. I think it's awesome.
I think it's cool. I think the biggest thing, my concern would be just making sure they understand the role of the photographer and
Hmm.
kind of their place in the day and, where to be and how much to intervene with stuff. So I think that I normally work really well with videographers, and I'm
Hmm.
sure that you do as well. And I think that comes from just, experience and having been at weddings. I'm just worried that, like, a content creator coming in, I think that's really important to make sure that those conversations are had and expectations set prior to the wedding day,
Right.
because I just fear like a camera being stuck in every shot. But
Oh my gosh, yeah.
but I'd like the idea of the couple having the content, because those are the days that we live in. But yeah, it is a little bit scary. Advice for second shooters. What are some things that you would say for second shooters do not do? Make sure you're not doing X.
Yes, make sure you're not leading the bride and groom or your couple, whoever you're second shooting for. Make That's the lead's job. Make sure you're not like posing them or telling them where to be, things like that. Unless otherwise told, there are some leads that are like, hey, do you want to throw out any poses in mind? Which is pretty cool, but don't
Hmm.
just voluntarily do it on your own.
Hmm.
I think it's really important to make sure that you know that your lead is the lead and they're the ones that booked this wedding, and you're just there to assist and help and get additional coverage for them. Um, I think another one is to make sure that you don't post any photos before the
Hmm.
lead photographer. And if and when you do end up posting photos, make sure that you always tag the lead so that they get credit for that wedding.
That's huge. Having that understanding of what you can and can't do. I mean, that would be a huge faux pas to post something
Hmm.
ahead of time. And this was interesting to me. So Kaylee was the photographer you first started working with.
Hmm.
What was her agreement with you for what you could and couldn't post?
So she was really awesome and let me post any photos throughout the day. She didn't give me like a specific number, like you can only post 10 photos from that day. She was just like, post whatever you want. You can use it on your website, social media, Facebook, whatever. As long as as the couple is not following you before I deliver the full gallery, then you can post it right away. But if they end up following you like from the wedding day, then just wait until I deliver the gallery, which I thought was totally fair.
I've never heard it put that way, and I really like it, because odds are they're not going to see it if they're not following you. But for her
Right.
to say that, it's a lot easier for the lead photographer just to say, just wait until I, share their gallery. So I think it was
Hmm.
nice of her to say that. So that's a nice way to go about it. And I think
Hmm.
it was great of her, because you being able to share all of the hard work that you've done is really nice. But for second shooters, some photographers don't want you sharing anything. And unfortunately, it makes sense. They've hired you and they own the
Hmm.
work. For second shooters that are trying to get booked more second shooting jobs in general, what would your piece of
Hmm.
advice be for them to get themselves out there in front of other photographers?
I would definitely recommend just throwing yourself out there. I know it's really intimidating to just message somebody that you don't know, but I would definitely just post all over Facebook, like on those Facebook groups, any photography, wedding Facebook groups, post on your social media stories like, hey, I'm looking to get my foot into the door with wedding photography. If there's anybody that needs a second shooter, please reach out to me, let me know. Or if you see a photographer that is in your area and they post on their stories and are like, hey, I'm looking for a second shooter for these dates, let me know if you're interested. just go ahead and DM them. See if they would be um, wanting to have you come and join them on their day. It doesn't hurt, and you never know what it could lead to.
The longer you're in this business, the more you work with photographers, I think they're also going to start referring you, if they haven't already, for things
Yes.
that they're not available for.
Yes, yes, for sure. That's what Kaylee has done for me. If she's not available to second shoot for somebody, she always tells them, hey, reach out to Kayleen. And I think that's so awesome because then I get more opportunities under my belt and more experience.
It also shows how much she respects you and your work that she's making those referrals.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell
Yes.
that she just, you do a great job and your work is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You have 2 elopements coming up. What are your thoughts on destination weddings? Is that something you're interested in?
Oh my gosh, yes. That would be such a dream to book a destination wedding. I would love it. I am all for it and definitely love to travel. So big yes.
I wasn't sure because you've got those 2 pups at home. I wasn't sure how you would feel about leaving them. So, so for anyone listening, you're open to elopements, destination weddings, you're flexible, super talented. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. You're an inspiration for a lot of photographers.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying that. I have like imposter syndrome like flooding through me, but you're so sweet. Thank you so much for having me.
No, and I think sometimes imposter syndrome, you got to just tell yourself it's because you care so much.
Yeah.
If you looked at it like, oh, well, I've got a camera and I can make some money on a Saturday, why not? You probably wouldn't have imposter syndrome. But
Right,
the fact that
right.
you care and you are supporting another photographer and their business and you're trying to create good work and you're trying to make a good experience for the bride and groom or just add to the day in a positive way and it's not about you at all. And, I think that's where the imposter syndrome can come out. And also you're someone who likes continuing your education. And so it's like you're always learning. And so, it's a good thing. So I just try to, whenever I feel like that, I just try to tell myself it is because I care and I do want to create good work. So, and again, your portfolio of work that you have created in a relatively short amount of time is so impressive. You've got a great voice. Your ability to get people to be so comfortable and have that come through in your photographs is really amazing. I can't believe you have 15 of your own weddings booked this year. That's really great. So I can't wait to continue following you and talk to you again. I hope you have an excellent wedding tomorrow. I know that you will. It sounds like it's going to be a great day. So thank you again. I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Oh, well, thank you. I will talk to you later. Have a great day and a great wedding.
Thank you. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you.